Right, hi, and welcome to another in our series of Unpacking Telematics. This is brought to you by Netstar, a subsidiary of the Altron Group, in partnership with FleetWatch magazine. My name is Patrick O Leary, I'm managing editor of FleetWatch, and today we're going to be talking about a very important subject at the top of every operator's mind: how to use telematics to reduce fleet costs and increase savings. And bear in mind, we'll speak to the fuel hikes. And in the studio with me today, I have Ralph Govender, Senior Manager, Ralph, of Sales and Business Development of Netstar. He's been with Netstar for many years. A very important topic, Ralph. Everybody's looking at costs. There's two types of costs in transport. You've got your fixed and your variable cost. Now, many transporters, the operational costs are going up and up and up, and the rates are not keeping up with that. We've seen that forcing companies to close. Companies like Mercedes for Food closed their curtain cider division. Gay Transport closed. They've been around for a long time. They can't keep up. What help can telematics give them? How does telematics help to reduce fleet costs without impacting on reduced productivity, efficiency, safety standards, etc.?
Sure. Again, thanks, Patrick. So telematics, in terms of the data that it provides usable data sets to customers, and then what it allows you is to view your fleet in real time. So what you just mentioned now is in terms of containing or curtailing costs and efficiencies. So it is very important for a business to know if there's wastage happening in their fleet, just in terms of driver productivity and vehicle utilization, which is very, very important. So utilization comes into, where companies now know, do I have the right amount of assets to deliver the optimal load on the shortest possible route? And then are my drivers being as productive as they can be during a day? If you do not have visibility of this, well, you can't make decisions to impact that. Therefore, telematics is essential to know exactly what's happening in your fleet in real time every day, so that you're really running at optimal levels. Companies have just-in-time delivery. How do you make that happen? You need to know in real time where your fleets are, so that you keep a minimal stock holding. You improve your productivity of your drivers and your assets, and then of course you improve your customer service, because what you mentioned now, customers look to whoever's going to provide them the best sort of service. And in order for you to maintain rates, at the very least, you need to be delivering premium service. So in order for you to ask for a rate increase or anything like that, you got to do it from a position of strength. And if you are that company that is delivering that exceptional service where customers know, look, I can rely on this company, I'm willing to pay what they need because I get the service that I'm paying for, and it is in time, it helps me to maintain my costs, it helps me to maintain my customer relationships, well, then you're in a position of power. And telematics enables all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yes, that is such a good point, to enable you to go, and I'm going to enlarge on it, to go to a negotiation with the customer. I know one transport company, and I'm sure there's many, and their customers sit with them around the table, and they're quite transparent. Because they don't want them to run at a loss, because they're not going to, they need the transport.
Yeah.
So this gives them the information to take to those meetings. Telematics enables them to take accurate, hands-on, reliable information to show the customer what they're dealing with cost-wise.
Yes, absolutely. And the telematics will then, so the data that you provide, the usable data sets, is actual fact of what's happening in the fleet, what's happening out on the road, what's happening with their loads, etc. And these types of decisions help with informed decisions thereafter, where, it's not just guesswork. This is the reality of what we're facing. These are the associated costs to deliver this kind of service. And this is the minimal sort of profitable margin we can run at to actually deliver this. And it's an open conversation with your customer about it, because they're also in business, and in order for you to remain in business with them, to deliver that service, that partnership and that discussion needs to happen, but it also needs to happen with some fact that sort of grounds that discussion. And this, again, is what telematics provides. Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that it takes the bully boy attitude out of a rate determination. I have heard from many transporters that they always dictated to by the transport, by their customers, and that they they have nothing to go on. They either take it or leave it. They'll get another transporter, and there's a lot of them around who will take that at a lower rate, and they run themselves into the ground, and then their standards drop, their maintenance drops, their road safety drops. They end up killing themselves and others on the road and killing their business.
Correct.
This is a more professional way of doing it without employing more staff, but using telematics and your systems to actually raise the status of the negotiation and to stop the bully boy thing. Let the customers, maybe they don't understand they don't understand what's in transport, do they?
No, and this is exactly why when you're having these types of discussions, there's certain business that's good business, call it, or there's bad business. I mean, you as a company wouldn't necessarily walk into a deal that's a loss-making deal, because then why are you doing it? Because ultimately, you're just setting your company up to close in X amount of time. And in the meantime, you're delivering a service to somebody that's actually benefiting hugely from your company service. So that doesn't make any sense. So in order to have an honest discussion around the table around what we can deliver to your business and also remain sustainable so that we can help your business grow, but then at the same time keep our business running, and you need facts to do that.
Yeah.
And when you present these kinds of facts, it's very hard it's very difficult to argue the fact, and then you can then get your point across a lot simpler and enable these sort of discussions to happen so that you can have a mutually beneficial relationship with your customer.
100% in agreement there, that mutual beneficial relationship.
Yes.
Not just one. It's got to be a win-win scenario, and there's a lot that are win-lose scenarios. And the transporters sometimes are in the back burner because they've got a lot of assets. They've got monthly payments on those assets, and they have to take the rate that they offered. And this just puts it on a new standard. Now, to go away from it, or to take it further, I've got a good rate in that, but I still want to reduce my costs. Okay, so how can telematics help me reduce costs? Let's look at some areas that I'm going to reduce costs and increase my savings.
Okay, so there's a couple of areas. The one being vehicle or asset utilization, and we mustn't forget of the non-motorized assets. So we think of a truck, a huge horse that somebody buys. It's quite an expensive asset, and we want to track the utilization of that. But then there's this massive trailer that it pulls around, which is a non-motorized asset. And companies end up buying excessive amounts of these non-motorized assets. And typically, it's based on contracts that they might win without necessarily monitoring down the line that, look, I've got X amount of trucks, I've got even more trailers perhaps lying around, which is quite an expensive asset. And telematics now, and in particular Netstar solution, can help you to monitor a non-motorized asset and even improve the servicing scheduling of these. So typically you would monitor or you would service these non-motorized assets like a trailer based on hourly basis. So you might say it's run for 6 months, it needs to go in for a service. Now you don't really know, are you under or over servicing this trailer? Maybe it sat in a yard for 3 months and did nothing. Having data insights now with tracking systems that Netstar has, we can actually give you the distance traveled by a non-motorized asset. With technology that has long life batteries that can really show you trip data on non-motorized assets. So now you make a much more informed decision. You say, well, I'm actually over servicing my trailers. I need to service them once every 8 months or 9, or maybe I need to do it sooner because I have a health and safety requirement or risk on the road.
Or maybe I'm not doing it enough.
Or maybe I'm not doing it enough, or maybe I have too many. Instead of 1,000 trailers, I maybe just need 800 and I can get the job done. So that kind of intelligence enables efficiencies in the business, and that's what you will use the telematics for.
I'm very happy to hear about the trailer because we do think called break and tire wash, and most of the faults are found on trailers.
Yeah.
The guys send the truck tractor in for service and the trailer stays outside.
Correct.
So if you're monitoring the trailers and that's a big breakthrough.
Yeah.
And so there's no excuse for a shoddy trailer anymore.
Absolutely not. And it requires a special type of device, in considering that trailers may stand for weeks on end without any power. And you can't have a tracking device that might die in that period of time. You need something that can sustain, and also for stock management. A lot of big corporates have yards all over the country. And something as simple as tell me where this trailer is can take days even to find out. So having something that will tell you every day where your asset is and then how often you need to service it is critical. Right. And the technology will help do that.
This is something that all operators should be looking at, is improving transport efficiency, productivity, and it used to be fleet tracking and recovery. Telematics have taken it so much further, the features of telematics. I mean, and you're really helping me as an operator to cut costs. Let's look at fuel.
Yeah.
One place where a lot of costs is incurred unnecessary is idling. In America, they have certain areas where you get fined for idling for too long.
Sure.
The manufacturers have now automatic idling cutout switches, which switches off engine if it picks up its idling after 2 minutes or something, whatever it is.
Yes.
A lot of fuel being wasted.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything about helping encourage a culture of let's stop idling, that's wasting my fuel, that is a fleet cost, that is unnecessary and can be curtailed?
Correct.
Are you doing something about that?
100%.
Or are you already in there?
Yeah, we're already monitoring idling. So the telematics device provides excessive idling alerts that are triggered. We can implement things like limp mode or immobilization that can cut vehicles out. Look, OEMs do provide, like you said, some of them provide automatic cutouts these days with the more advanced vehicles. There's still a lot of vehicles out there that don't have those type of systems, that don't have necessarily alarms or things sent to manufacturers because they're just older vehicles. And probably the bulk of vehicles out in the field currently need some type of telematic system to help provide that type of data. So at the moment, in conjunction with the Bureau monitoring excessive idling, we can certainly help fleets cut that out completely, and then use that type of data to train drivers proactively where they can see trends developing, using that to debrief drivers, call them in, say, look, these are the areas we need to improve, and do it before it becomes a problem.
Drivers have a huge impact on fuel. And I know there was one company, I'm not going to mention the name, its drivers are running around the highways recently at 60 kilometers an hour to save fuel. But that's not safe.
No.
We've seen many other truck drivers complaining they're sitting behind them, they lose their patience and all that.
Yeah.
Telematics, of course, can also improve the driving performance.
Yes.
And can that be linked as a separate, call it a dashboard, linked to fuel saving? I'm looking to save fuel, I'm looking to save costs in my fleet.
No, 100%.
How big is that?
So in terms of driver behavior reporting, and we've got very specific reports that measure all the different variables. So it's things like harsh braking, harsh acceleration, excessive speeding, excessive idling, and driving in and out of green band, which is quite important because OEMs will specify what are the optimal speeds for your vehicles. Driving slower doesn't, like you mentioned, necessarily mean fuel saving. You could be losing more fuel by just driving too slow. You're stressing out your engine. You're wearing your parts a lot quicker. So maintenance becomes a thing where you're increasing your schedules. So it isn't optimal, and you want to try and stay within green band specifications. And then these driver behavior reports that we produce, very rich telemetry data, can help transporters now manage this within their fleet. So yes, absolutely, we can monitor that and then enable the right kind of behavior change to be sort of managed within those fleets.
Yeah, and every litre counts. So these are important things to monitor. They're important things to manage.
Yes.
But you're giving the operator the data, and not only his own data. You're using big data. I keep on coming back to this, the new gold of the world.
Yes.
To give them sort of parameters in which to operate, which even the opposition are operating, but they won't know it because it's you're using big data to give me the information to better manage and to better and the big thing today is cutting costs without reducing my efficiency, my safety standards.
That's it.
I know that a lot of people postpone maintenance. One more trip, Ralph. Just one more trip.
Yes.
And then that becomes 2 more trips.
Yeah.
And then suddenly that vehicle is totally unroadworthy.
Correct.
And plows into someone with massive ramifications. So don't go as far as that. Operators, small, medium, large operators, you have the tools here to help you better manage your fleet, become more efficient, reduce your costs, improve your savings, and your bottom line will benefit. And of course, as Ralph has pointed out, to also enter negotiations on a transparent basis using exact information to justify a potential rate increase and not be bullied into anything else. Ralph, I thank you so much for that.
Absolute pleasure.